Thank you for staying tuned to Business Today. Now, the Namibian Employers Federation is seeking further dialogue and the involvement of Parliament to decide on the national minimum wage as announced by the Ministry of Labour, Industrial Relations and Employment Creation. And to tell us more on why employers want a further discussion, I'm now joined in studio by Terence Makari. He's the chairperson of the Namibian Employers Federation. Good evening and thank you so much for joining us at this particular time. Just talk to us about the specific aspects of the minimum wage that the Federation is concerned about.
Thank you, Selma, and good evening to our viewers. Let me, from the onset, just make it clear that ever since that the Ministry of Labour have announced that we will have a minimum wage introduced, the NEF has been disappointed in terms of the process that has been followed in relation to taking contributions and input from all the stakeholders. And despite various efforts on our part to get audience with the Minister and discuss our concerns with the Minister, we have not been successful in being given the audience. And for that reason, I think we believe that there is a need for us to engage in further consultations. But we strongly believe that those consultations need to start at ministerial level. For that reason, we have also, once again, extended a request to the Minister to give us audience for us to outline our concerns and also give proposals in terms of the alternatives that needs to be considered. Key to our discussion with the Minister is it will be a plea for us to defer the implementation date. We do not believe that the timing of the 1st of January 2025 date is appropriate, given the current realities that we are facing and the limited time that employers has had to transition and implement minimum wages.
Just in addition to that, because you, NEF, highlighted that your submissions were not adequately considered. Just expand more on what some of the requests and demands that were outlined in those particular submissions and what was the feedback?
Look, we never really disputed the need for introducing minimum wages, but our stance has all along been that it is premature for us as a country to embark on a national minimum wage and that our focus should rather be on sectoral wages. We do have sectoral wages that were in place for the agricultural sector as well as the domestic sector. And we were quite open to have sectoral wages introduced because we do have other sectors such as wholesale and retail, security, and hospitality and tourism that also have wages that is quite on the low side. And we believe that there was a need to explore the implementation of minimum wages at these sectors. So that has all along been our stance, and that is also the basis of our submission. We have had extensive consultations with our members that operate in these industries. They were open to the introduction of minimum wages. They had suggestions on what is appropriate and sustainable given the current business realities. And that was our main submission to the Ministry of Labour. But we never really felt at any stage that the Minister gave these submissions due consideration.
And how might the parliamentary involvement change this particular decision-making process of setting this minimum wage, Mr. Makari?
Let me first emphasize that our view is that the parliamentary engagement process should be last. We have a line minister, and we believe that our line minister would be considerate enough and give us the audience that we require. We have written to him earlier this week to seek that audience, and we believe as social partners at the tripartite forum, there's still room and opportunity for us to discuss and resolve this. But in the absence of us finding alignment or being afforded the audience that we require, we might have to seek other means of engagement to really prevent potential job losses that we foresee coming.
Yeah, because that was going to be my next question. What happens then? Should the minister really not heed to your request and so forth, but also given the economic implications and also the sustainability of the affected industries. In your submission of perhaps some of your demands, are there any discussions regarding potential support or adjustments to particular businesses that may potentially be affected or struggle in light of this increment?
No, there's no specific support that government has outlined, and during our engagements or consultations with the ministry where we asked for audience to discuss these concerns, the ministry's stance has all along been if there's any concerns on the part of the employers, they should apply for exemptions. But the exemption process itself has not been clarified. We do not know what are the key considerations that will be considered in an application of exemption from an employer. These things have not been clarified. And
what does this say about transparency and accountability then for this particular decision?
I think these are the concerns that we have, and that really affirms our concern that we are not ready to implement this appropriately, and we should provide ourselves the benefit of time to resolve the differences in opinion that we have. We strongly believe that we have to act in the national interest as leaders, and the best way to act in the national interest for us is for us to come around the table and discuss issues of concern before it really leads to consequential job losses that we foresee coming.
And I mean, we already have such a high unemployment rate, but also, Mr. Makari, we have workers advocacy groups who contend that this move is crucial for ensuring adequate living wages for all Namibians. What is your reaction?
Yes, we agree with that. I think we all are aligned to the view that we need to improve the livelihood of our employees, and we need to get to a stage where people are compensated fairly. However, this needs to be done in an informed approach and in a sustainable manner that will not threaten the continued existence of the very same businesses that needs to provide this employment.
Let's just expand on the part where you're speaking about job losses and so forth, because how do you foresee this also just affecting the larger landscape of the labor market in terms of hiring and also just retention challenges?
Look, there's a few consequences that could emanate from this. One is we might see a shift towards more informality. We might see situations where employers would say we can't afford to absorb these costs, and they would look at retrenchments and lay off some people, and then only keep those numbers that will not significantly impact on their cost base. We might also see a shift in how employers going forward negotiate on wages. And if you reflect back and look at the last 2 decades, there has been an evolution in how wages were negotiated in this country, where there was a shift from purely focusing on basic wage and benefits, but also there was other cash components such as housing allowances and transport allowances introduced. Now, the reality that we are facing today is that the construct of the minimum wage gazette that has been published does not take cognizance of these cash payments that employers are making. The focus is purely on basic wage. When you look at the gross pay component, there's many employers that are already above the threshold. But the threshold is different, and consequently, they are not in compliance, and there's an expectation that they should now pass further increases to be compliant. So these things are going to impact on employment. We also foresee that there's going to be a shift towards the concept of independent contracting, where employers will no longer employ people, but rather get them to do jobs as independent contractors. And then the concern of informality as well.
And you think there is a reform needed in some of these regulatory frameworks as well?
Yes, we need to, because ultimately I think it is in the best interest of the country if, given the high unemployment numbers, if we could put statutory provisions in place in an informed manner that is going to unlock and create further employment and not stifle employment opportunities in the country, and or consequently lead to people losing their jobs, as well as minimize job growth.
And what is the Federation's stance, or what do you think could be done just to, in the future, to balance fair wages for employees and also just for that financial stability or sustainability for businesses as well?
Look, we are fortunate in this country that we have a collective bargaining process that has over the years really matured. And the social partners, be it the unions, government or employers, have found ways to openly discuss demands that are at the negotiating table and to make informed decisions based on business realities. And employers do share information with their employees, with the unions, that has an impact or could impact the continued existences of their business, and if business performances are good. We have also seen significant increases being granted and new benefits being introduced. So there is a will on the part of employers and all the other stakeholders to really improve the livelihoods of our employees. But we are saying it needs to be done in a sustainable and holistic manner to make sure that we do not negatively impact on employment and we do not destroy the future of the next generations by not growing this economy.
And just for now, how does the Federation plan on supporting, these employers, and what is the way forward, considering the stance from the ministry and the Federation as well?
So the NEF has been built on the premise of ensuring that our members are really compliant with the statutory provisions that are in place. And that is the message that we have been sending to our members to say, look, at this stage, without, if there's no alternative intervention that comes, the date is set as 1 January 2025, and businesses need to prepare themselves for complying and making sure that they comply with the minimum wage. In complying, there's various options that they need to look at. They could go back and renegotiate conditions of employment. They could restructure their operating models and make sure that they have a workforce that they will be able to absorb with a cost base that they're comfortable with, that will not threaten the continued existence of their business.
Just to take you back, I'm just wondering, because you highlighted some of the sectors that could be potentially impacted. Have any of these industries come to the Federation and voiced their concerns about this particular development?
Yeah, so the NEF membership is made up of a lot of industry sectoral associations. So let me cite one example. We have the Agricultural Employers Association, who is a member of the NEF, who have employers in the agricultural sector. So we're in the midst of a drought that was declared a few months back by the President, and a few months later his Minister of Labour announces a 67% increase in labour cost. How is the agricultural employers expected to absorb this in the midst of a drought?
So it's not feasible. It's unrealistic.
It's not realistic. Yeah. In the short term. It's not realistic. We're not saying that it is not achievable in the medium to longer term, but it's not realistic in the short term, given the prevailing circumstances under which agricultural employers are operating.
Well, Mr. Makari, thank you so much for joining us this evening and for your time and information, and all the best.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
All right. And that was Terence Makari, the chairperson of the Namibian Employers Federation, briefing us on why the Federation is seeking further dialogue and also just the involvement of various stakeholders in Parliament to decide on the national minimum wage. Well, your international news is up next. Just stay with us.